All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So the 2023 NFL Draft is officially in the books, and in this one, I wanted to break down every single undrafted free agent signing that the Jets have made so far. I think I have on my list 10 or 11 players here. Wanted to quickly go through them. I know that this video might not be for everybody, and I totally understand that, but if you love football like me, then you'll probably, I mean, for me, every single year, ever since I was a kid, I was always so interested in the undrafted free agent market. Obviously, it doesn't get as much coverage as the actual NFL draft, but you can find absolute gems. That's not an over-exaggeration whatsoever. Every year, I keep my eyes peeled. Who are the Jets signing? Where are these prospects going? Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into the first prospect here. Desland Alexander, defensive lineman from Pitt. So coming in at 6'3", 285 pounds, the one thing I really like about him is his consistent numbers, right? Every single year he was with the Panthers, the number, he didn't have the spike insane season and then a major drop off. It didn't take him 3 years to get going. No, every year you could pencil him in for pretty much identical numbers. Over the course of his career, he had 29 and a half tackles for loss, 16 and a half sacks. He's a fifth-year senior, big-time motor, plays with a lot of energy, and he is considered somewhat of a tweener. Okay, so next up is running back from Oregon/USC, Travis Dye. And this one, I have to be honest, caught me off guard because this is a guy who scored a ton of touchdowns, 30 touchdowns throughout the course of his career. In fact, in 2021 with the Ducks, he rushed for over just under 1,300 yards. I mean, Dye is not only just an effective ball carrier, but he's a guy who can hurt teams or can hurt college teams in the receiving category as well. Yes, he did transfer schools, going from Oregon to USC. And admittedly, when you see pictures of Dye, when you watch him, lining up, with the formation, like not actually doing a play. He looks small. He isn't the biggest guy around, but man, he does not go down on first contact. I actually watch a ton of Mountain West Pac-12 football just because it's on so late. I like it. I like flip it on the TV at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and it's like halftime of a Pac-12 game. It's sick. So I was surprised that Dye fell out of the draft. I got to be honest. So I'm excited to see what he brings. Okay, next up, Caleb Johnson, linebacker, former UCLA Bruin, transfers over to the Miami Hurricanes, 6'2", 235 pounds. He's actually a 6-year senior. He has really good reactionary skills, played middle linebacker, and over the past 3 seasons, recorded 40-plus tackles in each year. Obviously 2 with the Bruins and then this past year with the Miami Hurricanes. I think right now linebacker's an interesting position. I think yes, CJ Mosley's there and he's the man, but moving forward, I do want to have guys in the pipeline because once Mosley leaves, whether it be for a cap casualty next season or whatever the case may be, I don't want to be screwed because if you don't have a middle linebacker, especially, think about Salah's defense. If you don't have a middle linebacker in this style, you just have like a complete liability there. You're going to run into issues at some point. So, I'm excited to see how Caleb translates once training camp or once minicamp arrives. Okay, so next up is actually my favorite acquisition that the Jets have made so far. Quite frankly, I did not think he was going to be in the undrafted market. I felt like, granted, he didn't have like tons and tons of production, but this is somebody, when you think about potential, it's really high. In fact, he actually reminds me a lot of Kelvin Benjamin back at Florida State. And of course, when he entered the league as that late first-round pick to the Carolina Panthers, it's EJ Jenkins, wide receiver from Georgia Tech, 6'7", 240 pounds. I feel like you can play Jenkins at tight end. He transferred over from South Carolina. Massive catch radius. This is somebody that I think will enter the Jets locker room, will start camp with the Jets, and just by size alone, he's just going to be towering over players on the squad. Like, he is that physically intimidating, and I love players like this. I know the league is trending, there's so much, with the quick passing, RPO screens, there's a lot of college, I get it, right? The route running is coveted, especially in the West Coast system, but there is a place for big-bodied, physical wide receivers that just throw corners around like rag dolls. Get out of my way. I'm going up. I'm winning this 50-50 ball. That is what Jenkins brings. I am shocked that he fell. I'm not saying it was supposed to be a first-round pick, second-round pick, but based off potential alone, this is somebody who I would have drafted in round 6, round 7. Get him in the building. We can set stuff up for him and hopefully watch him grow. Next up, sticking with wide receivers here, Xavier Gibson from SFA. He's only 5'10", but listen to these numbers. He actually led the FCS in receiving yards back in 2021, 1,367. He had 14 touchdowns that year as well. He was the WAC Offensive Player of the Year. He was a first-team All-American. Load up on talent offensively. You know, I know defense is super important. I'm actually a defensive first type of guy. It's my preferred side of the football, but I think, because Saul is here, because we're coming off such a great season, we have so much talent there. I'm excited about the future. I want to really load up on offense, leave no stone unturned, go get an ultra productive guy here, and that's exactly what the Jets did. Okay, so next up, wide receiver from Gardner-Webb, TJ Luther. At 6'1", 180, he's actually one of the fastest players in the conference, and he's an absolute stud at returning kicks. That is his strong suit. And by the way, I'm going to leave or attempt to find a bunch of highlights for all these different players. Leave it linked down below in the description box. So if you have any, if you're wondering like, oh, how does this guy look? How does this guy look? Go down, check it out. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of videos down there. Next up, linebacker from Southeast Oklahoma State, Malik Hall. 77 tackles, 8 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss last season. First team All-Great American Conference. Hall's a guy who flies around and plays like his hair is on fire. From what I've seen in the short time of watching some of his highlights here, he does play with a heightened sense of energy and intensity, and you guys know how much I love that, how much I think it's important. Think about Quincy Williams, that type of just fire on game days. I love that trait. Next up, linebacker from Alcorn State, Claude Edwards. Over the last 2 years, he had 149 tackles, so he's all over the place. He was a UMass transfer. He actually had 6 sacks last year, and I know that's not, like 6 sacks is 6 sacks, but 6 sacks coming from an inside backer is insane. Like that, those numbers are solid. 6'3", over 230 pounds. I like the move here. Going back to the offensive side of the football here, wide receiver from Southern Miss, Jason Brownlee. He was actually expected to be a late round draft pick. In fact, he had a round 5 grade on him. He's a big time red zone threat, a contest catching machine, and a massive catch radius. Coming in at 6'2", 200 pounds, 33-inch arms. And last but not least, defensive back from Western Kentucky, Khalif Khaleesi. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, really good size for a defensive back. Personally, I love big, imposing DBs. He's a redshirt junior. 2022, last season, he was All-Conference USA second team, started every game for the Toppers, 65 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 INTs, 10 pass breakups. In other words, a lot of production there. A lot of production. In fact, he actually transferred over to Western Kentucky from Oregon. So that's a guy who I think I'm really keeping my eye on what he can do in camp. So that's going to be it right now. I know there could be some signings. There actually could be signings that are going down now. Okay, so quick fast forward. I just did a scan. It doesn't look like the Jets have added any more players within the last 10 minutes here. But we also have to consider tomorrow morning, more players can sign. If something does happen, of course, expect a video on it. And really looking forward to doing my draft grades as well. That should be dropping either tomorrow or probably on Monday, depending on the undrafted free agent market, how that's going to play out. Of course, we also have to talk about the Quinnen Williams extension, Mekhi Becton's 5th-year option. There's a lot of stuff that we have to, figure out. Quan Alexander before the start of the, by mandatory minicamp and whatnot. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and quick shout out to every player that got drafted, every player that's getting scooped up by a team, whether you're the first pick, last pick, not picked at all. You got my respect, man. Like, there's so many people out there. I'm one of them that wishes like, man, like that was you, So my respect goes out to every single player, every single one. So thanks so much, and as always, go Jets.